In a society fixated on effort, struggle, and achievement, the notion of not trying can seem illogical. However, Lao presents us with Wu Wei, a concept that challenges traditional beliefs, often translated as non-action. This interpretation can be misleading. It does not imply inaction. Instead, it signifies a deep alignment with the natural flow of life, allowing actions to occur effortlessly. Picture a talented musician immersed in their art, or an athlete experiencing a state of flow. They do not force their movements. Rather, they yield to the rhythm of the moment. This encapsulates the essence of Wu Wei, acting in perfect sync with the Tao, the fundamental force of the universe. While society celebrates relentless effort, we are conditioned to believe that success is achieved through struggle, pushing harder, and exerting control. Yet, have you ever realized that the more you try to force something, the more resistance you face? The harder you attempt to fall asleep, the more alert you become. The more you chase happiness, the more it seems to slip away. Wu Wei offers an alternative perspective, one that values ease over strain, allowing over forcing, and flow over resistance. It embodies the paradox of achieving effectiveness without effort. By not striving, we often find ourselves accomplishing more. Wu Wei is not about being passive or lazy. It is about mastery. Think of how a skilled martial artist operates. Rather than rigidly forcing their opponent into submission, they yield and redirect energy with minimal effort. A river doesn't struggle against the rocks in its way. It flows around them, gradually altering the landscape. This reflects nature's wisdom, actions that arise naturally and are perfectly suited to the circumstances. We often think that control is the path to success, but what if relinquishing control is the true key? The best ideas surface when we stop trying to force them. The most meaningful solutions come forth when we relax and trust the process. Wu Wei teaches that when we act in harmony with the natural order, everything aligns effortlessly. It's about trusting the flow of life rather than resisting it. The most effective leaders, artists, and thinkers exemplify this principle. They don't impose their will aggressively. Instead, they adapt, respond, and move with a kind of effortless grace. The modern world trains us to associate effort with value. Work harder, push through, never give up. These are the mantras instilled in us from an early age. While determination has its merits, relentless effort can often lead to burnout, frustration, and inefficiency. Wu Wei presents a different approach. What if we concentrated not on doing more, but on doing what is essential with precision and ease? Think of high achievers who seem effortlessly skilled. A master chef doesn't fret over every chop. They move fluidly. A great teacher doesn't rigidly impose knowledge on students. They foster an environment where learning happens naturally. The best entrepreneurs, rather than micromanaging, know when to step back and allow things to evolve organically. This illustrates the essence of Wu Wei, understanding when to take action, when to pause, and when to simply let things be. Nature exemplifies Wu Wei beautifully. Birds don't struggle to soar. They merely extend their wings and let the wind guide them. Trees don't resist the changing seasons. They adjust, losing their leaves in autumn and blossoming in spring. Nature flourishes not through force, but through harmony. Imagine if we adopted this approach in our lives. When we cease to resist the natural flow, life feels lighter. We make wiser choices because we are no longer motivated by fear or desperation. We experience reduced stress as we let go of rigid expectations. Our creativity flourishes because inspiration comes effortlessly rather than being forced. Wu Wei invites us to embrace ease and trust that life unfolds as it should. It doesn't mean giving up on our goals or ambitions. Rather, it's about pursuing them with grace. It involves knowing when to advance and when to retreat. Most importantly, it's about recognizing that sometimes the greatest strength lies in surrendering to the natural flow of existence. Humans inherently seek to control their lives. We carefully plan, strategize, and strive to mold reality to align with our expectations. However, Lao reminds us that the notion of control is merely an illusion. Regardless of how much we attempt to foresee or influence the future, life remains inherently unpredictable. The more we cling to control, the more it eludes us. Much like sand slipping through our fingers, think about our approach to relationships, careers, or personal development. We establish strict expectations, convinced that forcing outcomes will lead to success. Yet, have you ever observed that the harder we try to control others, the more pushback we face? The more tightly we grasp desired outcomes, the greater the stress and disappointment we experience. Letting go doesn't equate to shirking responsibility. It involves acknowledging what lies beyond our control and learning to flow with, rather than against, the natural rhythms of life. And envision a sailor battling against the wind, striving to propel their boat forward through sheer determination. Now, imagine another sailor adjusting their sails to harness the wind to their benefit. The second sailor embodies the wisdom of surrender, collaborating with external forces instead of resisting them. This encapsulates the essence of Wu in relation to control, understanding when to loosen our grip and allow life to unfold naturally. LSU teaches that genuine peace arises from accepting things as they are. This doesn't imply passivity. Rather, it signifies moving in sync with life instead of exhausting ourselves in a struggle against it. The less we resist, the less suffering we create. The more we embrace the present moment, the greater clarity and ease we experience. How can we incorporate this understanding into our daily lives? In our relationships, letting go means allowing others to be their authentic selves instead of trying to control their behavior. In our work, it involves concentrating on what we can influence and having faith that the outcomes will follow. When facing personal challenges, it means accepting setbacks as part of our growth rather than resisting change. The most significant breakthroughs often occur when we stop forcing solutions and let insights emerge naturally. The most effective leaders, artists, and thinkers recognize this principle. They don't micromanage every detail. They trust in timing and adaptability. Letting go enables us to live with greater peace and effectiveness. While uncertainty is unavoidable, we often expend so much energy fearing it. What if we chose to embrace the unknown instead? The greatest adventures, the most profound discoveries, and the deepest joys frequently arise from unexpected paths. Lao's wisdom teaches us that when we release our grip on control, we become like water, fluid, adaptable, and at peace with whatever comes our way. Letting go is not synonymous with giving up. It is about trusting the natural flow of life. In that trust, we discover true freedom. Water is often regarded as the softest, most yielding element, yet it is also incredibly powerful. Lao, in his profound teachings, draws a comparison to this concept. Letting go is not about surrendering. It is about having faith in the flow of life. In that faith, we find genuine freedom. Water is frequently regarded as the gentlest and most accommodating element, yet it possesses immense power. In his insightful teachings, Lao likens the Tao to a river that flows smoothly, adapting to its surroundings without resistance. When water meets an obstacle, it doesn't confront it. Rather, it navigates around it, adjusts, and continues onward. This idea of flexibility is fundamental to Taoism and illustrates the essence of resilience. In a society that often prioritizes brute strength and control, the Tao invites us to rethink this mindset. We are conditioned to think that strength means pushing harder and forcing our way through challenges. The more inflexible and unyielding we are, the more powerful we appear. However, the Tao uncovers a paradox. Genuine strength is found in adaptability, in the capacity to bend and flow with life's circumstances instead of fighting against them. Like water, we must also learn to face life's challenges with grace and ease. Instead of resisting change, we can welcome it, understanding that flexibility and resilience are interconnected. Just as water navigates through even the narrowest gaps, we too can learn to move through life fluidly, adjusting our path when needed, while maintaining our core. In our relationships, careers, and personal journeys, the concept of going with the flow is often misinterpreted. It does not imply passivity or inaction, but rather responding to life with intelligence and awareness. When we try to impose our will on situations, we become inflexible and struggle to adapt to the natural progression of events. The Tao teaches us that genuine resilience is found not in resisting the current, but in flowing with it. By surrendering to life's inherent rhythm, we can face challenges with greater ease and less resistance. Consider a river. It is perpetually in motion, constantly adjusting, yet it never forces its way through. It doesn't halt when it meets an obstacle, nor does it frantically attempt to push past. Instead, it simply adapts, seeking the path of least resistance. This is how we can approach our lives: fluid, adaptable, and resilient. In this way, Taoism conveys that life doesn't necessitate struggle. It asks us to trust in the natural flow, align ourselves with the unfolding of events, and respond with the same grace and strength as water. In our fast-paced society, success is often linked to relentless effort, constant hustle, and the accumulation of accomplishments. We are conditioned to think that the more we push, the greater the rewards. However, Lao's wisdom challenges this notion. He teaches us that sometimes achieving more comes not from striving harder, but from doing less. The principle of Wu Wei, or effortless action, reminds us that by releasing the need to control every outcome, we allow ourselves to embrace the natural flow of opportunities. The paradox here is quite remarkable. When we cease to force outcomes and instead align ourselves with the natural rhythm of life, success tends to come more effortlessly and organically. The essence of this principle is found in letting go of our attachment to specific results. When we become overly focused on outcomes, we often operate from a place of anxiety and fear, which can lead to exhaustion and burnout. By shifting our attention to the process and acting with intention, but without excessive pressure, we enable our efforts to flow in harmony with life. This attachment to results can create an unhealthy obsession with outcomes, pushing us into a state of anxiety and fear, which frequently results in fatigue and burnout. Instead, by concentrating on the journey and taking purposeful action without undue force, we allow our endeavors to align with the universe. This doesn't imply inaction. Rather, it signifies taking deliberate steps without the weight of expectations. In fact, many of history's most successful figures, artists, inventors, and leaders, have naturally embodied this principle, often without realizing it. They pursued their passions but did so without relentless striving or forcing outcomes. Their creativity flowed freely, leading to breakthroughs and achievements that seemed almost effortless. Wei acknowledges the importance of hard work. It simply advocates for a more balanced and sustainable approach. When we relinquish the need to control every aspect and begin to trust the process, we become more in tune with our inner wisdom and intuition. The essence of true success lies in acting from a place of calmness and ease rather than from desperation and struggle. The real paradox is that by doing less, we can accomplish more, not because we exert more effort, but because we have learned to work more intelligently in sync with the flow of life. The teachings of Lao and Taoist philosophy remind us that life is not a contest to be won, but a current to be embraced. The practice of Wu Wei, or the art of non-action, involves aligning ourselves with the natural order of things, trusting that we don't need to force every result by releasing the need for control. That genuine success stems from effortless action, rather than excessive effort. We open ourselves to a more profound and harmonious way of living. The beauty of Taoism is found in its simplicity. By doing less, we discover more. By having faith in the process, we uncover a life filled with meaning, purpose, and joy. The journey to true resilience, success, and peace is not about battling against the world, but rather about flowing with it. So, when life feels overwhelming, remember the wisdom of water. Go with the flow, trust the journey, and let success unfold naturally.